All right, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, this is a team that has still, despite what people want to say in the media, a great chance to win another title. They've got the right coach, of course. They've got one of the great quarterbacks of all time, and they've added a number of key pieces this offseason. And there's not one, but two young additions to the squad that are already making a strong impression on the coaching staff. We'll get to the latest out of Kansas City in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this is the time of the year as we get closer and start working our way through OTAs, right? The draft, undrafted free agency, rookie minicamp, that's all behind us. We've gotten past the first initial wave of what these new guys look like in terms of the social media hype and things like that. And on this channel, we always like to focus on what are coaches saying? What is the front office saying about certain players and prospects? Because it's one thing if some hype guy on social media pumps up one big play during a practice that where no one is even wearing pads. It's another thing when coaches are starting to say and notice things. And there's a great report out of Kansas City about, again, not one, but two rookies to the squad. And obviously, we've got some great data, as we always do, on the other side. But let's get into this article first, courtesy of NBC Sports. Kansas City took defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott late in the second round, then 3 spots later took defensive end Ashton Gelati early in the third round, as the Chiefs believe the pass rush got a lot better in the course of only a few minutes of the second day of the draft. Chiefs senior director of player personnel said the Chiefs knew a top priority in bolstering the roster was increasing the number of good pass rushers on the team. You can never have enough of them, Bradway said via Adam Teicher of ESPN. I think Omar with his inside rush and Ashton just with his versatility, we thought these guys are just too hard to find. And we're seeing a lot of good reports out of Kansas City for both these guys. And granted, it's early and we have to put that caveat on these reports as we always have to. But when you look at the data, when it comes to these two guys, Chiefs fans, you should get excited. Let's start jumping right into it. Let's bring up Gelati's numbers, his 4-year numbers at the University of Louisville. You can see 26 and a half sacks, 41 tackles for loss over those 4 seasons. His junior year jumps off the page, 11 sacks, 15 TFLs, tackles for loss. A little bit of dip in production his senior year. That's not uncommon. You become a superstar pass rusher. What do you get? You get double and triple teams. Your production drops. He is still a very efficient player in terms of productivity, getting pressures, getting to the quarterback, making the play. Love to see that. Now let's go into Orman Lott's numbers here. This is, again, really good numbers here. Interior defensive lineman, so his overall raw production isn't going to look as good, but 13 and a half sacks, and a lot of that, 9.5 over the last 2 seasons at Tennessee. Great competition. Defensive tackles, they get very little sacks in terms of college football, just the way it works. So when you see 9.5 sacks over 2 seasons, that's not bad at all, especially for a Tennessee Volunteers defense that does a lot of rotations. This was a guy here who was very productive, again, even against challenging environments in terms of top competition. But again, talking about what these players do, production is great, but when you get into the advanced data, looks even better. Let's go ahead and go into our first chart here in terms of what I'm talking about. So what we did is we broke down the pass rush win rate, because we're talking about pass rush here, in a statistic that the guys over at Pro Football Focus PFF call PRP. It's just the formula they come up with in terms of evaluate pass rushers. It factors in a bunch of things. You can go to their website if you want to look at their math. Kind of like it. It's kind of a cool statistic, kind of pair it with pass rush win rate just to make sure things are aligned. And if you look at the numbers here, going from left to right, we can see Omar Norman Lott versus his peers. We have Derek Harmon, who was a first-round pick, TJ Sanders, who was picked in the second round, Walter Nolan, who was a first-round pick, and, of course, Mason Graham was a first-round pick, and then Omar Norman Lott finishes off the list here. He was a second-round selection. And you can see amongst all of these guys, Norman Lott here has a better pass rush win rate than all of them. Right. These were a lot of really good football players from a lot of big-time conferences. When it comes to winning these pass rush situations, Omar, Norman Lott, better than all of them. Harmon, Sanders, Nolan, Graham, see it on the screen. He's better. How about PRP? Again, that funky formula that factors in a bunch of things. It's very, for you stats nerds, again, I kind of recommend it. But if you look at it once again here, Omar Norman Lott, better than everybody else, right? No one really talked about this kid very much in terms of when he was drafted. There were a lot of other big name guys. Some of the guys on this list were mentioned at a much more highly and much more often. But when you look at the raw data from a pass rushing perspective, it's clear the Chiefs got a massive steal, and it's no wonder why they're really high on this kid. But then let's go look at Gelati's numbers, and this is where it gets very interesting. So I compared Ashton Gelati's numbers against the best of the best edge rusher pass rushers from this past draft. Look at here. You got Abdul Carter. You got Donovan Aziaraku from the Dallas Cowboys, a steal considered by the Cowboys there, and James Pierce Jr. And then we've got Ashton Gillotte, right? This is Gillotte versus three of the top biggest names pass rushers in the entire NFL draft. I compared once again that PRP number, that advanced data, and the TPS, true pass set pass rush win rate. The reason I use TPS here is because if you're an edge rusher, I don't really care how you do, if it's not like a third and long pass rush situation, second and long 2-minute drill, that's where you make your money. Can you get after the quarterback when it's a true pass situation? That's when I like to grade pass rushers. That's my opinion. You may disagree. Leave that up to you. But if you look at the numbers here, right, across the board in terms of true pass set pass rush win rate, that's a mouthful. Gillotte is better than everybody except Abdul Carter, who's considered the next Micah Parsons, and he's not that far away. In terms of PRP, he's on the same level as pretty much everybody except, again, Abdul Carter, who's just a little bit better. James Pierce is a little bit better as well. So we talk about a guy here in Ashton Gillotte who wasn't mentioned nearly in the same breath as any of these other guys. These are top 5 picks, first-round picks, second-round credible steals. The Cowboys got A+ for when they picked up the kid out of Boston College. But despite that, Ashton Gillotte's numbers, the raw analytics, look very favorably. We saw this with Orman Lotz. When you break down the data of what the Chiefs have done with these two pass rushers, it's clear they got 2 massive steals. And you can understand why the Chiefs organization, the coaching staff, the front office is so excited with these players. They've got not 1, but 2 pass rush weapons that will have a massive impact for them, I believe, day one. There's a lot of experience that I listed in front of you here. I think we can see him slide into that Spags defense and do a lot of great things. And a lot of people look at the Chiefs and they think, maybe on the decline. When you get 2 rookies like this, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. They ain't going anywhere, folks. All right, Miles, that's enough from me. That's a big old rant. But first, Chiefs fans, Chiefs Kingdom, if you will, in the comment section below, of all of the players you added to the roster this offseason, undrafted free agents, draft picks, some other deals, who's the addition that you think is sliding under the radar that you think will have a pretty big impact, right? We've talked about a few of them over the past few weeks. Maybe you've got a guy in your own mind and think, hey, no one's talking about this guy. I think he'll do great things for the Chiefs. Give us that player, that new Kansas City Chief, in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest report and all this data and just everything when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs right now?
Yeah, Nick, I think when you think about Chiefs, you think about the front four, the pass rush. You got 2 names in mind. Chris Jones, obviously, number 1, best guy at the position for a long time. Probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Guy's incredible. You look at Karlaftis, a guy at the edge doing a lot of good things, a lot to like about Karlaftis as well. But the other side of the line is questionable. I think there are opportunities for guys like Omar Norman Lott to slide in. I think Ashton Gillotte has time to slide in. So I think they really hit it out of the park here. And first, looking at Lott, what he brings to the table, I think this is a guy who fits nicely to slide in right next to Chris Jones. He has a lot of good abilities there, a lot of good things that he does really, really well in that regard. You talk about what Jones does. Jones, pure pass rusher, really great there as well. But I think Omar Norman Lott, a great pass rusher as well, but he did decent as a run blocker, especially in year 1 at Tennessee. He had that 80 overall run defense grade, at 68.1 run defense grade in year 2, but still, he has potential, do a lot of great things in the run defense, but pass rush, really great as well. So having 2 good pass rushers in the middle of your defense, going to be a nightmare when, like you said, in those true situations, when you got to get it done, third and long passing situation, the Chiefs have a monster here in the interior. And when you look at the outside, Ashton Gillotte is actually a guy who, when you look at his numbers, is very, very impressive to me as well. Because you look at what you said, he had a little bit of dip in conversions as far as not getting quite as many sacks from his junior year to his senior year. But if you look at his grades, he actually had quite a big jump, about a 7-point jump from his 2023 season to 2024, going from an 82.8 pass rushing grade to an 89.9, almost a 90 overall pass rushing grade in that final season at Louisville. This is a guy who did incredible stuff in the pass rush game. A guy very good in run defense. In 2023, 87.9, but in 2024, a little bit of drop off, but still very respectable score, 78.0 in the run defense game. The guy can do really, really great stuff. So I think these are 2 guys underrated. Sliding in here, this Chiefs front four with the guys I mentioned Karlaftis, Jones, with Norman Lott and Gillotte sliding in, That is not a defensive front I want to see on third down. Your quarterback will have like 0.3 seconds to get the ball out. These guys are all coming through the interior or off the edge. This is a pass rushing machine here. And again, two guys who also are good in the run defense game as well. Let's not discount that. But overall, great pass rush prowess here. I think the Chiefs really knocked it out of the park with these two guys. And I think they bring a whole lot to the table here. A great move by the Chiefs front office. Like you said, one of the best. It's what we expect from them at this point. But again, I think they really saw two weaknesses on the defensive line, filled them in with two players who fit in perfectly. And overall, a great move by the Chiefs to go back to potentially, like you said, that number 4 Super Bowl in 4 years. That would be incredible.
Yeah, I think one of the things to talk about when it comes to this Kansas City Chiefs, and when you look at how the season ended, and I don't want to say there's struggles because they won a lot of football games, but it was a lot of close games. When people were critiquing Kansas City, they focused on offense, and some of that was warranted. But the reality is, they were incredibly devastated by injuries. No one wants to talk about with the Chiefs, but they had just a plethora of bad luck, especially at the receiver position, and that really hurt them. Right, that was one of their areas with lack of depth. But everyone was always talking about the offense. Right, what's wrong with the offense? How can the Chiefs' offense get better? The reality is, if you look at the biggest drop off in performance among any team in the National Football League that was really good at something in the top 5, the Chiefs were second in sacks in 2023. In 2024, they fell to 18th, right? That is a massive drop off. If you look at all the playoff teams in the National Football League, that was one of the biggest in all the categories last year. I think the Kansas City Chiefs recognize that getting after the quarterback and converting pressures into sacks more frequently, the lack of doing that really hurt them. They obviously were able to overcome it with the Super Bowl run, but a lot of those games were so close and so competitive simply because their defense wasn't as physically dominant in terms of getting the quarterback on the ground as they had been in years past. And of course, that reared its ugly head in the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people saw the way that game just kind of tilted and exploded. But if you look at the game as it progressed, the Chiefs defense had a lot of opportunities. They just couldn't quite make that big play on third down to kind of hang in there before their offense could get going. And then the tidal wave just exploded. When you look at these two new additions here, they're both very productive, very efficient. They're winners. I love the fact they got a Mr. Inside and a Mr. Outside. They got a guy who could be paired with Jones or sub in for Jones in certain situations to win a lot of these pass rush opportunities. They got another edge guy who's known more for just being a super productive. He's almost like a Karlaftis. He's not known for being a massive speed guy, Gelati, or anything with some kind of crazy spin move like Dwight Freeney or anything like that. He's not, as much as his numbers look good compared to like an Abdul Carter, he doesn't play the game the same way. He's much more traditional bull rush, rip move, traditional speed to power kind of stuff, which I personally think is really, really effective. I want defensive ends to use a lot more of that kind of technique. I think they both slide in right away. They fit stylistically with what Spags wants to do as a defensive coordinator. And they're both contributors that will continue to grow and develop, right? And I think that's what the Chiefs do an incredible job of doing. They bring in guys that can contribute in some capacity early on in their careers while simultaneously growing them and kind of teaching them to become their bigger roles. We saw this with Karlaftis. He didn't get oodles and oodles of playing time early, but he got a decent amount and kind of grew into the player he is today, a significant contributor and obviously a key starter. I think both of these defensive linemen here will fit that role right away with the Chiefs. They'll do a lot of different packages. They'll make a lot of plays, and over time, they will grow into becoming key starters. Chiefs fans, I know a lot of people right now, I don't want to say are nervous, but they're like, what, how good are the Chiefs really? Did they fall apart? Are they on the decline? When I look at these moves right here and I look at their entire draft, the left tackle, of course, Simmons, that was a phenomenal move. We talked about it at the time. The Chiefs very quietly did a great job reloading in a number of key areas. The question mark is going to be how fast can these rookies bring up to speed? If these rookies can get going early, watch out. There is no reason to think this Chiefs team can't make another run at a Super Bowl.